Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, we're going to go over chapter 18 of the book of Revelation. This is part of a series that we're doing where we're just going chapter by chapter in the book of Revelation and then reading what it says in the Institute manual for further insight. And you don't have to watch this in order if you're new, but I do have a playlist called The Book of Revelation where I have the other videos that I'm doing, as well as many other videos not part of this series that have to do with the Book of Revelation. I don't have an update on the Flood the Earth challenge or the Book of Mormon sharing challenge because I have Rabbi Gerfine I'm going to be talking to in a couple hours, and it takes time to find all the comments and emails and then put them on the tracker. So I think I'll probably do a video later today and I'll have an update at that time. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get into it. Chapter heading: The saints are called out of Babylon lest they partake of her sins. She falls and is lamented by her supporters. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Uh, I've had a couple hateful birds, but they're not with us anymore. Chickens and such. For all nations have become drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye may receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she has rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works, in the cup which she hath filled to fill to her double. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and I am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death, and mourning, and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. And the kings of the earth, who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. And by the way, really quick, thinking of kings of the earth, let's see, when is the coronation of King Charles? I know it's this month. Um, oh, it's only 4 days from now. It's going to be on Saturday, May 6th. This is an interesting thing. When you go into the study of secret combinations, a lot of times this particular family comes up time and time again. Um, I am of the opinion, not just off of opinion, but actual research of others, that there's a lot of not so great things that occur with this family. And mind you that Um, I am descended on my dad's side from England and Wales and Scotland. Okay, I have roots in that country, so it's not it's not what some of you think. Okay, I have a connection to that. Look, I'll prove it to you. Look, hold on. Ancestry.com. Sign in. Go to DNA. Your story. Oh, another update. As they get more and more samples from different people, there's always updates, so it gets more and more fine-tuned. But you see this? My number one is Portugal at 41%, and then after that, England at 20%, and then Wales at 16, Scotland at 14, and then Spain, and then Germanic Europe at 1. So my mom's side is down here, the Spain and Portugal, and my dad's side is primarily up here. But of course, my mom has a little bit up here too. But primarily, this is my dad's side. So, and then if you go further out, they should have where is it? Yeah, right here. They used to call this group right here the Mormon Pioneers, but now they call it Northern Utah and Southeast Idaho Settlers. So it's the same thing. Got that. And then I have this other community. These are called DNA communities. The other one is just Portugal, central and southern Portugal, because my mom. Okay, so anyway, we got this coming up, and it's just interesting. I would encourage you to watch it. I'm going to watch it. This is a very rare occurrence. Where we have a British royal being coronated as king or queen. The last time it happened was with Queen Elizabeth, and that was way, way, way before I was born, and probably a lot of you too. So, and I think that the timing of this is really interesting. I don't think, just like many other things, I don't think that it's coincidence. Okay, so, and the thing that's like just so ironic to me is that, look, the ceremony is scheduled to begin with the anointing of Charles, symbolizing his spiritual entry into kingship, and then his crowning and enthronement, representing his assumption of temporal powers and responsibilities. There's this idea of British, what's it called? British Israelism. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, where they believe that they are descendants of David, and that very well could be true. I do think there's a lot of Israelite blood in the British Isles, and Jeffrey R. Holland has said as much, and that's where many of the early saints came from. So I think there may be something to that, but as far as like spiritual worthiness or things like that, I'm not so sure about that when it comes to that family. And I'm not condemning all of them. I'm sure some of them are good, but I think as a whole, there's some issues there. So anyway, okay, let's get back to this. Okay, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. Standing afar off for fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, the great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more, the merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all Thean wood, and all manner vessels of ivory, and all manner vessels of the most precious wood, and of brass, and iron, and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense. Which, by the way, frankincense is really good as an incense. It smells excellent. So does myrrh, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, the great city that was clothed in fine linen, and purple, and scarlet, and decked with gold, and precious stones, and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster in all the company in ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off. This is an interesting thing, and I'm not saying anything bad about my dad, but he definitely had a lot of possessions. Um, he was a software engineer, and he did pretty well financially. And it was crazy how when he passed away, I know I've said this before a couple other times, but when he passed away, I had to take emergency leave, go from Fort Hood to Salt Lake for his funeral, and we were only going to be there for a short time. Yeah, but it only took a very short time for all of his stuff to just fly away and go. Like me and my brother, we kind of split up some of the stuff, other things, um, stuff that my mom didn't want. And then there were other things that she didn't want that just we sold. And it didn't take very long. And I was actually kind of stunned how quickly all that accumulation of material things just vanished. Literally in just a matter of days. Um, and I think it is going to be just really crazy whenever this happens, when Babylon falls, when wickedness is destroyed off the earth quickly, and just all these things that to us just felt so great and so big and so powerful and so influential and so ingrained into society in the world, when it just gets destroyed in one day, you know. And I am looking forward to that day. Okay, so in cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, "What city is like unto this great city?" And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, "Alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness." Costliness, yeah. For in 1 hour she is made desolate. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, "Thus with violence shall the great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians and of pipers and trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in thee." And that's like another big one that I can't wait. It's just the music industry to be thrown down and then reborn in the millennium, but be good and stop putting out just the pure. Some of the most evil things come from the music industry, and then of course also Hollywood, because that those are two ways to get into your mind. So it makes sense that they would put a lot of their assets and influence and time and effort into those two industries. Okay, and no craftsman of whatsoever craft he be shall be found any more in thee, and the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride, which of course is Christ and the church, shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by the sorceries were all nations deceived. And this right here, man, we are being so severely deceived by the world. It's in every single message coming from them, in commercials, TV shows, music, the news, at your work, because all companies are under this spell, this disgusting, abominable spell that is on the entire world. And I don't know. I'm not like the oldest person, but I'm in my late 30s. But going back to my earlier years, I don't remember the world being so in lockstep. All these different organizations with each other, pushing for the same philosophies as what we see right now. I think that the sorcery is like at the highest level that it's ever been. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 18. So now let's look at the Institute student manual and see what it says. Revelation 18, verses 3 through 4, choosing righteousness despite the prevalence of modern wickedness. Revelation 18 proclaims the fall of wicked Babylon and describes the lamentation of all who associate with her. In all ages, the Lord has commanded his people to come out of Babylon and be not partakers of her sin. Elder Richard G. Scott of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles testified that it is possible to follow the Lord's teachings and avoid being contaminated by the world's wickedness. Quote, Much of the world is being engulfed in a rising river of degenerate filth, with the abandonment of virtue, righteousness, personal integrity, traditional marriage, and family life. Despite pockets of evil, the world overall is majestically beautiful, filled with many good and sincere people. God has provided a way to live in this world and not be contaminated by the degrading pressures evil agents spread throughout it. You can live in a virtuous, productive, righteous life by following the plan of protection created by your Father in heaven, his plan of happiness. End quote. Yeah, and I agree. It's just basically nowadays entertainment is basically inconsumable, or you can't consume it without getting lots and lots and lots of contamination. And but thankfully, we do have YouTube and the internet, which provide the everyday person the ability to share good things. And now these different industries don't have a monopoly, really, like they did before, over music, entertainment, and even like with education. Now there's so many different channels that you can go to that do really good research. They've gone to school, and it's not. It's like it's not all in the hands of those that are in power anymore, right? But even putting those kind of things aside, just in your personal life, you don't have to mingle with people that have worldly values. You should not completely avoid them. You should be an example to them, but you can always withdraw in just mostly be with people that uplift you, that have good values. They don't have to be members of the church. But yeah, there is a way to do it. And I've done it my whole life. I did it in the army where there were a lot of really foul things going on, but you can find those good people in the world. Okay, verses 3 and then 7 through 16. The wealth and materialism of Babylon. And here is a handful of euros. Okay, John used phrases such as waxed rich and lived deliciously to highlight the lust for wealth and lavish possessions that define Babylon. These riches will be destroyed, and those who have placed their hearts upon them will lament. President Harold B. Lee warned that with prosperity often comes the temptation to embrace the materialism of Babylon. Quote, "We are tested, we are tried, we're going through some of the severest tests today, and we don't realize perhaps the severity of the test that we're going through. Today we are basking in the lap of luxury, the like of which we've never seen before in the history of the world. It would seem that probably this is the most severe test of any test that we've ever had in the history of the church." End quote. Now, can you believe that? That he's saying that above other tests? Because so many times we talk about um, morality in terms of like family, the definition of family and stuff like that, which is very serious. And there's a lot of other serious things. But this right here, I think that this really has to do with idolatry, possessions, and basically turning yourself into a god in this world, lowercase g, of course, by showing off what you own and what you are capable of and what you did to obtain this status, right? It's idolatry, and the god is you. And sometimes the god is your possessions. We just did a video where we talked about people that have like these massive collections of things, and they put so much time and effort into collecting things, which is cool. It's actually cool sometimes, but it shouldn't take priority over family, church, and other stuff. Um, Now, in this vein, there's this quote that I've always liked. This is from Thomas S. Monson, April 2005 General Conference, a talk called Constant Truths for Changing Times. And I've added this quote to my quotes A through Z spreadsheet, and I've made a new row called Materialism. So you can find it there if you want to find it after this video. I'll also post this link from the church website. I'll put it in the description below. But I love this, and I think that this is a huge problem. I almost fell into this, and I think this is a huge problem in the world today with young couples. He says, avoid the philosophy and excuse that yesterday's luxuries have become today's necessities. Yesterday's luxuries have become today's necessities. They aren't necessities unless we ourselves make them such. Many of our young couples today want to begin with multiple cars and the type of home mother and dad worked for or worked a lifetime to obtain. Consequently, they entered into long-term debt, or sorry, consequently they enter into long-term debt on the basis of two salaries. He's meaning people that where you have both the man and the woman, they're both working in order to have the same luxuries that their mom and dad had at the time that they were growing up and by the time that they left home. Perhaps too late, they find that changes do come. Women have children. Sickness stalks some families. Jobs are lost. Natural disasters and other situations occur. And no longer can the mortgage payment based on the income of two salaries be made. It is essential for us to live within our means. And I'm not trying to do like a holier than thou, but I just want to tell you, in case you haven't heard this before, uh, I always wanted for Jenica to be able to stay home because that's how I grew up. My mom stayed home. She raised us. My dad worked, and it was that kind of situation. And I felt like I got so much out of it. I really do. To this day, I'm very grateful that my parents lived like that. And then later, as me and my brother, started going, I think it was by the time I was in high school and he was like going to junior high, I think. Yeah, is that how it went? By that time, she took on like a small job. She just wanted to make some extra money. But anyway, I wanted that for my family. And as I started going to school, for accounting, uh, I decided we talked together, me and Jenica, that we wanted the same thing for her. And once we had our first, and we prayed a lot about it. And we prayed about when we should start our family. And the answer was that we should start our family then as I was going to school full time and working full time. And I was like, is okay, all right. But there were just unmistakable signs that that was the time to start a family. And so we did. And as soon as our first child was born, Jenica quit her job. Um, and then through just a way that I could not have possibly planned myself, the Lord made it possible for her to stay home and for me to make enough money. Okay. That's not to say I didn't have to do really crappy things, which I did, but that's called being a man, and that's called sacrifice. Sacrifice. We could have gone the conventional route, and I think for most people, that is the right way to go to continue with college. But I dropped out. Well, I didn't drop out. I went into a different program where I got certified as a FAA, through the FAA as an aircraft dispatcher. And then, which was shorter. It wasn't like a 4-year program. So I got that. We moved to Arizona, okay, to save a little bit of money in case we had to travel really far. Um, we lived with her grandparents for just a little while, and it was hard for me to find a job that I wanted to accept. And so, through the process of time, I realized that the right answer was to join the military, something that I had never considered before. It's not something that I wanted to do, but the Lord provided a way, and I joined. And it turns out to have been the best thing that I've done professionally, in my worldly life. It is the best thing that I ever did. It brought so many blessings, things that I didn't even know was possible. Um, anyway, and then here we are today. I became, after the army, I became self employed doing graphic design, and now I'm doing YouTube as well. And it's taken time. We didn't start off with a nice home or anything like that. The nicest place that we lived was after the army. We were renting a house in an HOA community. It was about 2,500 square feet, and it was nice. It was a nice house, nice, new, you know, had all the stuff, all the bells and whistles, except for it didn't have a pool in the backyard. But just like most HOAs in Arizona, it has like a nice walled backyard, which I thought was always cool. Big house, whatever. And then we were led here to Kansas, where we have a much bigger property, but a much smaller house. It's only a little over 1,400 square feet. But you know what? It's not about square footage at all. At least for me and my family. Having this big property is amazing, um, and it took time to get here. But now I feel so comfortable in this house. And this may not be the end. Maybe we'll get another house later on, but not anytime soon. I'm tired of moving, and it's just this is a nice, comfortable place. And Heavenly Father knew that this would be available. He made it so that this would be available. And it's like the perfect size property to do exactly what we want to do. The house is comfy, it's nice and cute and cozy, and it looks very nice on the outside. We're working on the inside. We're doing a lot of renovations, but anyway, the point is, um, if you want to live righteously and you try, I think Heavenly Father can make things happen for you if you're willing to do it His way, which may involve some crappy stuff. You know, uh, the jobs that I accepted working at Discover Card was no walk in the park because it's a crappy uh, call center job. And then going to the army was not a cakewalk. That was a little bit difficult, but it all paid off. And I'm the better and stronger for having done that. Okay, so anyway, going back here. Okay, so verses 5 through 6, her sins have reached unto heaven. John heard a voice from heaven proclaiming that Babylon's sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Some people might think their iniquities are hidden, but these verses are a reminder that sins do not go undetected by God, though their consequences may not all come immediately. The voice also declared that Babylon would receive the consequences of her works and would be punished doubly, reminiscent of terminology used in the law of Moses. Let's take a look at that really quick. I'm curious what that is referring to. Exodus 22, 4, 7, and 9. If the theft be certainly found in his hand alive, okay. If the theft be certainly found in his hand alive, whether it be ox or ass or sheep, he shall restore double. If a man shall deliver unto his neighbor money or stuff to keep, and it be stolen out of the man's house, if the thief be found, let him pay double. Uh, for all manner of trespass, whether it be for ox, for ass, for sheep, for raiment, or for any manner of lost thing which another challengeth to be his, the cause of both parties shall come before the judges, and whom the judges shall condemn, he shall pay double unto his neighbor. Okay, yeah, so that gives a pretty good context. All right. Verses 11 through 13, merchandise and souls of men. The list of merchandise sold in Babylon reveals a startling truth. People sell not only gold, precious stones, fine textiles, and many other luxury items, but even slaves and souls of men. This refers primarily to the abominable practice of human trafficking, but can also be seen as a reference to the spiritually enslaving consequences of materialism and other evils. It may also describe corrupt religious practitioners who present themselves as ministering to people's souls while seeking above all to profit financially. In this sense, they traffic in the quote unquote souls of men. Moroni recorded that in the last days there shall be churches built up that say, "Come unto me, and for your money ye shall be forgiven of your sins. In contrast, the gospel of Jesus Christ offers spiritual nourishment without money and without price. Another thing I would say about that is you have toxic people all throughout the world, narcissists, psychopaths, sociopaths, that essentially enslave people. They enslave their own family, in the sense that it's like, well, if it is a family setting, it's like a family cult, where there's very strict rules, and everything is done for the narcissist's benefit, um, for the narcissist image and stuff like that. You essentially, you're a tool. Whether you're a spouse or a child or whatever, you're a tool of that person. You have a function that you're supposed to play, and you're essentially enslaved by that person. Um, and then it's really disturbing. And there's been a lot of talk of how, like, okay, you know how, like, there's such a thing as cults, and then people, once they escape a cult, they go through a deprogramming. Okay, a deprogramming, because of everything that was essentially done to their mind, the way that they were conditioned. Well, the same is true when it comes to really toxic people, just on the individual level, how you go through the same process of deprogramming when you, quote unquote, escape from a toxic person. You can research that more, look it up on YouTube, look up narcissism and stuff. But I think that this idea is probably a lot more prominent, or a lot more widespread than we realize. Okay, Revelation 18, verse 24, the blood of prophets and of saints. John recorded that in Babylon was found the blood of prophets and of saints, meaning that those who uphold Babylon are to blame for the martyrdom of prophets and saints throughout the earth's history. At the second coming, Babylon and its inhabitants will be recompensed for their evil works, for the blood of the martyrs will stand as a testimony against those who have slain them. A similar time of judgment was recorded in 3rd Nephi, verses 8 through 9, when whole cities were destroyed, that the blood of prophets and the saints shall not come any more unto me against them. So, there you have it. I hope that we see the fall of Babylon soon. I really do, because I'm sick and tired of it. And I know that you guys are too. It's coming. Don't worry. But okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. So, hope you enjoyed it. I'd like to, hear from you. Put your thoughts in the comments below. But in the meantime, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.